Junior Sleuths, and welcome to another episode of Real True Facts. My name is Betty Crocker.
And I am Nicholas Cannon. Not that one.
Not that one. Hi, Nicholas.
Hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on what part of the world we're all in. And I'm excited this week. We have another interesting topic that I'm not all too familiar with myself.
Yes, I don't know anything about this topic other than what you can kind of infer. Last week, we teased the idea of talking about the sexy world of biomes, about secret biomes. If you don't know, a biome is, and this is the proper definition here, biome is a community of plants and animals that have common characteristics of the environment they're in, but it's not necessarily a single environment. It could be like a shared environment. So, and like our body, for instance, is a human microbiome, which houses like bacteria, viruses, things that are present on the human body. So that is the only thing I know about today. But we had a question last week from Hayden M. He wanted to know if there were biomes where extinct creatures might still thrive. Like, could there still be dinosaurs out in the world?
Right. And I mean, for all we know, some of the previous topics we've discussed, like lizard people, maybe they have their own biomes, and maybe the loch where the Loch Ness monster resides is its own biome as well. So I'm hoping to get maybe a little more clarification with not only this week's guest, but with our very own Dr. Semor.
Yes, Dr. Semor is back with us this week, and we do have a very special guest joining us later in the show to talk all about his experience traveling the world and encountering these secret biomes as well. People like that actually exist, and we have one today on the show. Before we get into all that and welcome Dr. Semor and our guest back with us today, I'd like to check in with some news because, Nicholas, you sent me an article a few days ago on the tail end of World UFO Day.
Yes, we kind of were in between broadcasts for World UFO Day, and although it's a story that just doesn't quit.
No, it doesn't. I believe the article was a video as well, and it sparked a lot of interest from UFO enthusiasts in Congress. It was just more released video proof of UFOs. And we did speak to a director of UFO affairs, I believe is our agent here. So we know that this work is going on, but according to the article, Congress is interested in it. They want to see what the Pentagon and the nation's intelligence agencies know about UFOs. And they say it's not because of extraterrestrials, but they want to know if these things might represent advanced technologies and threats from enemies, from our adversaries, the article said. So, of course, they're going to say it's not extraterrestrials, that they're not interested in that, but we know better.
Yeah, they have. It seems like every time we cover one of these stories, they have to put out that disclaimer to calm the masses, so to speak, and make sure that no one freaks out or does anything drastic or plans another raid on Area 51 or similar. But there's so many of these warnings that I have a hard time buying into them, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I do too, because why would they say that it's not extraterrestrials? That just makes us think it is. It's like, don't draw attention to it. Don't put it in there. Just say, oh, we think this is a threat from Russia or whoever. And then we're like, oh, okay. But don't say, well, this could be advanced technologies. It's a UFO, but it's not extraterrestrial. It's something else. It's like, I think it's very insulting to assume that we wouldn't think that.
Yeah, they're playing a shell game every single time, and it seems that they're losing. That we're always able to find the bean under the shell or the queen in the 3-card Monty.
Yeah.
So it's pretty obvious that we're dealing with more than just some Russian or Chinese flying objects or technology.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Did you happen to watch the video?
I did not happen to watch the video or read the words per se, but I was aware of the article's existence and of the article having a headline. I may not have made it through the entire headline of the article,
Mhm.
but it seemed interesting, so that's why I had to make sure you were aware of it, Betty.
Yeah, and you are right on track with thinking that it is interesting, because it definitely is. And while I did not watch the video myself, I looked at a GIF of it, and it's right on brand. It's right on brand with the footage that we've seen of UFOs so far. It's consistent with the quality of footage caught of it. And so, in my mind, it's obviously incredibly legit because it looks like everything else we've seen.
Right. It's just it's more proof. I mean, it's right out there from credible news sources. I believe this one was from ABC
It
News,
was
correct? So
ABC
that's
News.
right. I don't know how much more credible we can get than
That's
that
it.
at this point.
That's the number one news source since really the dawn of news.
News, yeah. I was going to say
Yeah.
the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
when I think of news, I think of ABC News.
Yes, ABC. And Unsolved Mysteries is back on the air too. And so I think that is very intentional timing, that there are more publications and more broadcasts about these things and more footage being released. So obviously we'll continue to monitor this in a very long ongoing process of our UFO files. And a happy belated UFO day to you.
Yes. Well, to me, thank you. And then,
Yes,
to
to
all of
you.
our,
Yeah, to all of
thank you. And to all of our listeners out there as well. Happy UFO day.
Happy UFO day. So, like we said earlier, today's show is all about secret biomes. We've got Dr. Semor back with us today. Let's bring him up from the science bunker. Hello, Dr. Semor. Are you excited about today's subject?
I am. It's a very exciting world to explore. It's great to be here for it.
So, first of all, I mean, I have to ask. Betty had a definition of biome for us at the top of the show, but I have to ask, maybe from your scientific perspective, what do you consider a biome to be?
A biome, we generally will say, is any significant environment that can sustain both plants and animals. We do extend that definition to larger scales and smaller scales, but traditionally it's just anywhere where a whole bunch of stuff can live.
So it really is accurate to say the human body is its own biome, and that scales up to would the planet Earth be a biome as well?
It would be one big biome, and then we could choose to subdivide it as much as we want for whatever agenda we're trying to put forward there.
Interesting.
So, as far as secret biomes go, because that was the focus of the question, because we know these places exist. Obviously, our entire world can be broken up into different biomes, but secret biomes. So, when we're looking at things like dinosaurs, we know they existed at one point. They became extinct due to natural disasters, changes in our atmosphere, things like that. The question was, could there be biomes on our planet still where these things still exist? What would define a biome as a secret biome, in your opinion, Doctor?
Well, we have, we can use, for the sake of the listener, kind of biome and habitat, I think, somewhat interchangeably as we introduce the topic, although they don't mean exactly the same thing. But like, we've got deserts and we have grasslands and we have the tundra or a rainforest. A secret biome would be one that we just, as we take our broad look and broad brush of the earth, that you don't see. And the reason you're not going to see that isn't just like, oh, it's a thick forest cover, because that's a forest. Probably we're talking about underground in almost every circumstance here.
Underground. So in the sense that, because we mentioned last week the TV show Land of the Lost. In that show, there was an earthquake and the family's station wagon fell down into the land of the lost, which was just sort of like an open fault, I guess. And they found this whole other world. I guess, I don't know if it was a portal or something, but it ended up being this lost land. Are we looking at something like that that's underground, or is it more of an underdeveloped sort of thing?
Underground seems most likely. We're all familiar with the idea of continental drift and Pangea and the movement of the tectonic plates. So it's during all of those movements, it doesn't just there's a very likely chance that a small or significant opening can happen there, and in that, it's not just like a little water slips down into the core of the earth and cools it down or something. Way more can fall into one of those openings. And that would be, at least from my experience, from my research as a biologist, as an astronomer, as a climatologist, those would be the most likely places or causes that we'd see for a secret biome.
So what's interesting about this is, from what I've been told, the Earth is a very large place, a lot of surface area, and now we're taking all of this unexplored surface area and adding to that depth. So now we're going into a second dimension, from an x-axis, now a y-axis. So does that mean we have even more unexplored terrain, not just the flat surface of the earth, but now we have the depth of the earth? And so that's just a high percentage of area that we haven't even looked at yet.
Yes, I think so. A lot of people will say that space maybe is the final frontier. We've all heard that, or people talk about how deep just the ocean itself is, and there certainly is a lot to explore there, but just the layer beneath what we can see. There's a lot of reason to believe that areas under the earth have opened up just as recently as it's been a story many of us have heard since our childhood, that an asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs. And then they talk about in the scientific community, we always want some proof, but it was very recently as June of this year, where it was finally confirmed that that giant city-sized asteroid caused the catastrophic weather events and volcanic events that did extinct the dinosaurs. But to think that an asteroid the size of a city is going to hit, and it's not going to sink the ground down and take some stuff with it that might find that to be a kind of good place to hide while hell's breaking loose above you. That's silly to think that some dinosaurs aren't going to seek cover down there.
Okay, so we have an opportunity here. What you are implying is that when the asteroid hit, maybe the dinosaurs went down with it. Like it created a separate biome or separate environment for them to live in. And then that's where they were able to thrive. And then the ones that didn't descend down with the asteroid, the ones that stayed on the Earth's surface, those are the ones that died out.
Yes, that seems most likely, because once again, Land of the Lost tells that story, but it's not a one-off. That story of dinosaurs below the surface of the Earth keeps coming up through the canon. And yes, obviously that's where we find the bones, but if it just keeps coming up that there's living dinosaurs there, that has to be. It's much more probable that's from an actual experience, but obviously that would not allow all dinosaurs to survive. We're talking about small, unique events, and perhaps one or a few of them allowed dinosaurs to kind of create their own niche biome under the earth.
So we're not talking like a T-Rex living down there. We're talking about smaller, maybe bird-like dinosaurs, or even, I think about it in terms of years ago, I think it was maybe the early 2000s, maybe even the late 90s, that there was a woolly mammoth found underneath the ice, and it was completely intact. There was still fur on it. And so if we have this different level of preservation, we know that they're not completely gone. We know that DNA still exists. And so I think it's very interesting and very plausible what you're saying about them being able to live underground.
Yeah, and it would be very hard to believe that a large apex predator, just like you said, like a T-Rex, could survive. Like maybe a T-Rex found its way down there looking for a snack after the asteroid, but to say that that sort of thing would still be living there. But some of the smaller dinosaurs, even some of the smaller predators, could likely survive in these, because it wasn't a one-time situation where one asteroid has hit the Earth. It happens quite regularly. As recently as 2013, there was a giant 20 meter, 60 feet there asteroid hit the Earth. And that's a giant explosion. It's 30 times more than an atomic bomb. That's going to make a hole. That's going to dig you down deep. So if that's happened not just in our lifetimes, but in this decade, it's been happening for millions of years.
Wow. I'm blown away by that. You think like life is just on the surface. We know that there's life in the ocean, and that so much of the ocean has not been explored yet, and there's things that we don't know. But it's hard to wrap your brain around the fact that below the surface there might be just as much life happening as there is on the top.
And I think that's one thing we learned from some of our previous episodes with, lizard people and even Bigfoot, that there are a lot of things going on in not only in faraway places, but almost our own backyards that we didn't even know were possible.
Yeah, and I think ultimately that's what the show is here to do. Like we always say, we are providing a service, but sometimes we're learning these things just as much as in real time as the listener is. So I think this might be a good place to take a quick break, and we'll come back with Dr. Semor, but we'll also be able to introduce our special guest today and talk more about secret biomes. We're back from a break on Real True Facts, talking today about secret biomes. Dr. Semor is with us still today. He might have to get back down in the science bunker, but he'll hang on with us for as long as he can. Today we are talking to a very special person to shed more light on these secret biomes and kind of give us a better understanding about where we are and where we might be going. Please help us welcome our guest today. He is an explorer and travel expert, Dr. Bobby Knife.
Thank you. I should correct you real quick. It's not doctor. Someone put that on my LinkedIn. I've been meaning to correct it. I do work at the college a lot, mostly as a volunteer, and I work a lot for my dad, and I'm working on finishing my degree, but I have done a lot of exploring, and I had an app that told you where like the best Argo tea in your city was. But anyway, I'm happy to be here. I'm a big fan of the.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wow,
thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, that's an impressive resume in itself. I don't think, no embellishment needed. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Not anyone can come up with an app like that.
I'm working to get it to switch over for Caribou Coffee. I think that's. I shouldn't talk about that. That's in the works. But anyway, happy to be here.
Yeah. Thank you. So, as we know, but our listeners don't know, you are a world explorer and travel expert. Obviously, your app about various places to get coffee, places to eat. You're a man about town, but also you know a ton about secret biomes.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It was kind of accidental the way it all. My dad, as I told you in the. Before we started recording, my dad owns all the KFCs in Indiana, not South Bend, but all the other KFCs, and he owns the Chili's. So I do a lot of work for him, just going to check on the KFCs, and it happened that he's trying to open this. Trying to see if they want to do a Chili's in Athens, Greece, of all places, if you can believe that. So He sends me out to Athens, Greece, to see if it could be a good place, see if they need a Chili's is how he put it to me. So I get out there. It took me, I don't know, maybe I don't know how long it took me to get from the airport to the hotel in the cab to figure out, no, that they don't need a Chili's here, but I was going to have a good time because my dad's paying for it, rent this car, find this little lake, park the car there by the lake. Lo and behold, it's like a portal or something for, you've heard of, Atlantis?
Yeah,
So,
the lost city of.
Lo and behold, the mayor comes up and he's like, this is literally the only way we have out. Once a year, we're able to get out of the city and blah, blah, blah. Can you move your car? So I did, and he took me down. And I guess it just kind of led from there. The more work I did with my dad, I kind of started looking for those opportunities. And as you know, it's led me to some really amazing places.
Yeah, so I've heard of all the fast food, American fast food, really taking over the world in places that I think there's a KFC or similar near the Great Pyramids, it's interesting how American fast food can pose such a great outlet for finding interesting places all over the world. So, it sounds like Atlantis kind of got you started with this whole thing. And, so that's one of these secret biomes. But we've kind of talked about just previously, we were talking about dinosaurs. What's the closest thing you've come to a secret biome or a conclave or area that may have had prehistoric animals?
Well, you may not know this, but there are still a few dinosaurs that exist today here in 2020. And the thing about that is part of the reason why we don't find them is because they move. So,
just like any birds, they migrate, right? Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Right, exactly. There are only a few of these biomes that are really habitable for them. Is that the right word?
Sure, sustainable. Or,
right.
Yeah.
And that kind of changes with the seasons, so they find that they have to move. And like I said, I don't often set out intentionally to explore. It's usually kind of like my dad will be like, hey, why don't you go to North Carolina and see if they want to open a Buffalo Wild Wings? And along the way, that's how I found it was like I don't know what you'd call it, but it was kind of like a hedgehog mixed with like a gopher.
Hedgehog mixed with a gopher. Okay.
Yeah, that was just one experience. But like I said, I don't always set out to find these things, but I have found dinosaur dung on a few occasions.
Sure, I believe that's copperlight or something like that. Dr. Semor, are you still with us? Oh, he may be. Dr. Semor, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm right here. Sorry, my mic got a little tied up. Yes.
Dinosaur droppings are copperlight. Is that correct?
Copperlight would be fossilized dinosaur droppings, and that's a really interesting kind of big point here. If we're finding fossilized droppings, that's exciting, and that tells us a lot about how they lived millions of years ago. But if we're talking about something fresher and not fully fossilized yet, that definitely gives us a different look at what may still be either alive now or alive more recently.
I see. Yeah. So only fossilized dinosaur droppings would be copperlight. And so in this case, Mr. Bobby Knife, you're actually encountering something much more fresh in a sense.
And I guess I've found both because I found the fossilized before, which is more common. But yeah, the fresh is really that's what kind of gets the blood going.
So we have confirmation here from you that there are, I guess, dinosaurs living amongst these biomes that you've traveled to.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't seen one in eye to eye yet. I have seen a lot of dung. I've seen a lot of eggs. Seen other signs of of habitation, that sort of thing. But I've yet to see one in person, eye to eye. Again, I have seen a lot of dung.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about your time at the college that you were telling us about. I know because we messed up here and we called you a doctor in the beginning.
Well, and that's my fault. It's the link. It's on my LinkedIn still, and I need to fix it. So I don't want you to feel.
Oh, no. But I know that you are seeking that higher education. Can you tell us a little bit more about maybe what you're doing on a collegiate level and perhaps how that filters into either the apps you're developing? And I know you mentioned earlier that you are working on a book as well. Anything you can tell us about that?
Only a little bit. The book is going to kind of touch on all the places that I've stumbled upon, and kind of the some of the great mysteries that await us to be found out there. I will say that the book does spend a lot of time talking about my time with the mer people of Atlantis, which was really a formative experience for me.
Where are your travels taking you next?
Really, I'm currently focused on North Dakota. It's the dung bug has me, I guess you could say, or dinosaur fever, but whatever it is, my dad sent me up there trying to see if they needed an Applebee's, and I'm like, well, I'm here, I might as well see Mount Rushmore. So I rented a car, drove around. Turns out this was ages ago. This was before you could just look it up on your phone. Mount Rushmore, South Dakota. So I'm in the Badlands, driving around, and I had to stop and use the bathroom. And in the john of this gas station where I stopped, I lift the seat up, sit down. It's like a land of the law situation. I come in, and next thing I know, I'm in like the cavern, and that's where I saw the first sample of the dinosaur dung. So since then, I've just been kind of going back to North Dakota as much as I can, starting to accumulate or assemble a little bit of a team. So yeah, that's the biggest iron that I've got in the fire right now.
That's fascinating. You talk a lot about, especially in Greece, the portals. So are these secret biomes really are a secret? You kind of have to know where you're going, but maybe it finds you, because it sounds like you're stumbling upon these things. So can you talk a little bit more about your experience with the portals?
I don't know what it is. Like in Little League, I couldn't hit to save my life. But I can do this, so I don't know if like this is just my gift, or if it's something inane within me, or if I'm just in tune with something. But it's funny. The portals, they pop up in the oddest places. Like I said, in Athens, found this little lake, stopped to just sit back and enjoy the scenery for a little bit. Next thing I know, the mayor's in my car. He's like, hey, man, and this is maybe to speak to your point or to answer your question. He said, listen, this is the first time this has happened in like 45 years, but we need you to move your car. People don't normally happen upon us, but,
Yeah.
So, yeah, the portals just kind of they pop up. Like I said, there was the bathroom at the gas station. I've been to the Everglades, which is there's a lot of interesting things down in the Everglades. And oddly enough, this was at a porta potty, so another bathroom situation. But kind of found this was I wouldn't say the center of the earth, but like maybe 3/4 in.
So let's take a step back here.
Yeah, sure.
How long were you in Atlantis? How long did you find? Was it a few hours, a few days? Because it sounds like you're kind of dropped in, a stranger in a strange land, and the mayor was right on your case, so you had to act quickly. Did you have any time to take in, the sights, or was this just a very quick visit?
Well, here's the thing. Like the mayor, like I said, he's my first impression is like, this guy is a dick. He's having me move my car. Like I've been in Greece for like 72 hours, jet lag, blah, blah, blah. But then I moved my car and he's like, you know what? Follow me. And he took me down which was amazing. And then I spent probably, I guess, about a week there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Very cool.
it's pretty cool. They've got a lot for being so inaccessible to tourism. They have a lot to do, which is kind of fun. It's kind of like if Daytona Beach never really went to crap, like they got a boardwalk, they've got a couple of really nice arcades, they've got a movie theater that will show one movie, and 6 months out of the year they show Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and then the other 6 months they show It's a Wonderful Life. So it's just charming.
Sure.
And very Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can gamble, which I guess is a little off brand as far as Jimmy Stewart goes, but the Murr people are really lovely too, and they
super into it.
Yeah, they live a really long time. So like I said, it had been 45 years since their last visitor, but they all remembered it. So they're just really warm, and they're very welcoming and happy to have people amongst them.
And was the breathing underwater thing an issue, or is that a myth? Are they not really underwater completely?
They are underwater. They have developed some technology, which, like I said, I'm not a doctor, I don't fully understand, but the hotel basically has your room set up to where it's like a room on Earth. They've taken all the water out and pumped oxygen in, so you can sleep in the hotel and live in the hotel like it's nothing. And then they just have a little apparatus that you can stick either in your nostrils and or into your mouth to help you breathe while you're underwater out and about. And then a lot of the other places are kind of equipped like the hotel too, is where set up for tourists. Which again, I found ironic. But
yeah, it is a little bit, because it is a secret biome. This is a secret place. Obviously, we know about it through stories. Did you find that the people there were receptive of your visit, or were they just like, what are you doing here?
It was really maybe the oldest of the group that were very they were the last to warm up to me, is maybe the nicest way to put it. But really, like I said, the rest were just happy and warm. And it's so ironic. It's a tourist-based economy, so a lot of them depend on the tourism for their work. So with that in mind, there were a lot of people that I think were just happy to see me for that reason. But I found them to be generally very warm people, and very easy to talk to.
Mm-hmm. And you were there for about a week, is that correct?
Yeah, about a week. I got a haircut there, oddly enough, which I wouldn't say it was the worst haircut of my life. But
maybe not the best, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but it was the worst haircut. I wouldn't say that to them, maybe, but it was. Yeah, it was a bad, and I think that's just the styles of today and of life above the surface of the water haven't really made it all the way down. As we said, it's a secret biome, so you would expect that. But down there, they have a lot of there's water everywhere, so there's a lot of flow to whatever style you're trying to do, and I just don't have the hair for that. So
yeah.
But no, I loved Atlantis. It was a great experience, and like I said, it kind of lit a fire for me to look for more of these places. So I've tried to go back, can't find the port again, but and Greece is it's tough to travel to Greece, especially nowadays. But yeah, love Atlantis. That was a really great experience.
Wow. So yeah, I feel like we're just beginning to touch the surface of some of your your adventures. You're almost like a real life Indiana Jones. So maybe we'll take a quick break, and when we come back and delve into some of these more interesting adventures.
Sure. Yeah.
How does that sound, Betty?
Sounds great. We'll be right back. We're back on Real True Facts, talking today about secret biomes, and our very interesting guest today, Dr. Semor, is back with us after a short break. I just want to get your thoughts, Dr. Semor, about Bobby Knife's experiences as an explorer.
Well, I think some amazing insight came out there when we were initially speaking, Betty and Nicholas. We were talking about, the potential for maybe a dinosaur or an animal species, but small ones, and how long would they last and all that. To think that for an entire civilization is living and is thriving and is adapting over time and able to choose kind of when and how they're interacting with the surface just shows how much richness there could be to any of these biomes, how unique each one could be, how similar and how different it could be. So it's amazing to have one person who said that really in-depth experience, but it sounds like he's got the he's been able to find more, and I can't wait to hear about those as well.
Yeah, because we were talking all about dinosaurs. We were thinking, oh, these tiny little dinosaurs exist. Maybe this is super primitive. And here we are. We have someone now who is saying, remember Atlantis, the biggest one of all? I've been there. They're cool. They have this whole, culture and life going on just right below us. He did speak about portals. That is something that has been present in each of these biomes. I'll ask you, Dr. Semor, because we see, I guess, black holes. We see things like that in our universe. What are the odds of there actually being something like this, like a portal on Earth?
I thought the odds were long. We had talked about it kind of theoretically, and as you said, maybe a black hole, something in outer space. But wow, the experiences here are showing us that what we've always imagined to be science fiction or kind of something far off may be much closer to where we are and are obviously connected to kind of the world and the society that we live in.
Yeah, it's one more case of these interesting truths or facts living right under our noses, and we speculate about them and say they may be far off in outer space, but in fact they're right here in in our veritable backyards.
Yeah. Well, that being said, help us welcome Bobby Knife back from our break. Bobby, welcome back.
Thank you. I stayed seated where I was, so it's good to be back.
Perfect. We're glad you're still with us. So we wanted to talk a little further about a few other places that you've been. We know we've spoken pretty in depth about, no pun intended, about Atlantis, but you mentioned that you also went to the Everglades as well and encountered a secret biome there. Can you tell us more about that experience?
Yeah, well, my dad sent me down to Fort Lauderdale just to see about opening a PF Chang's. Lo and behold, they already have a PF Chang's down there. But I had some time, and I went on those fan boats where it's got the little motor on the little fan motor on the back of the boat. I went on a tour on one of those, and at some point the boat driver had to get off and use the bathroom, and he was gone for like way longer than I had anticipated. So I got off to try to use the bathroom too, and I saw a tree stump. I said, "This is be a good place. I'll pee in it." Stuck my foot in just to make sure there were no critters or anything. And as I did, I just realized how deep it was, and I lowered myself in. And it's another like kind of mer people situation. There's a lot. It's not completely underwater down there. It's kind of it's right below the surface, but there's the Florida is so low lying it to begin with. The lows I think lies right at sea level, so there's just a lot of water, and they kind of make their lives in between that space with in the little air pocket below the surface and then the water beneath. And honestly, that was not a good experience. That was terrifying because I had no intention of going there. And then when I got down there, they were not friendly at all. They really had no use for me. And it took me probably an hour and a half to find the tree stump again to get back out above the surface. And at that point, the boat had gone. And My cell phone only had one bar, so that was an ordeal. That almost threw me off of the whole track of exploring. Like I said, that dung bug, that dinosaur fever kicks in, and then that the Everglades truly were not a great experience for me, but I also feel like I learned a lot too. So it's and that's one thing I think about all. If anyone out there listening is thinking about becoming an explorer, you got to first realize that you don't become an explorer necessarily just by seeking out to explore. More so, you just kind of find the places as you go along, and they kind of come to you. But also, there's just and even in the worst experience, there's going to be something that you can take away and learn for the next time.
Mm-hmm. Even if that lesson is just don't go back there.
Yeah, or some of them, some of them just don't maybe use the bathroom there next time. Find a different place, or go. A lot of times, the lesson is to go before you leave for the tour or for the whatever it is.
Yeah.
It seems like you fall into a lot of these locations, both figuratively and literally. Are there any that you're actively seeking out, or that are on maybe your wish list?
Well, like I said, North Dakota is kind of the big carrot in front of me right now. I've been going back there trying to. I've kind of ruled out winter, spring, fall in terms of dinosaur season there. I know it's some point in the summer, but I just can't pinpoint it. I find that I'm always a day or two behind. So I've been back there a lot, and then my dad is actually trying to open up a Captain D's in Bristol, England. So while I'm out there checking that out, I'm going to go up to Stonehenge, and from what I hear, there's some potential for some activity there. So that's probably the next trip besides North Dakota on the docket that I'm excited about.
Yeah. What do you expect to find in Stonehenge? Because it's a very mystical place. There's a lot of magic there. It could be rife with portals. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. When I was in Atlantis, the mayor had talked of hearing of some type of troll people or some type of like troll dwarf hybrid. But he was that was all just him kind of relaying hearsay and speculating. But I don't know. Stonehenge didn't just happen. Something did that, and I intend to at the very least kind of figure out more about what that was. So
interesting. So as you speak and kind of go through some of these stories, I'm kind of feeling like there's as Betty mentioned, almost a mystical quality to some of these encounters and locations. It may not just be a purely, I tapped into a different physical environment or a different habitat. It almost seems like there's mystical or ethereal kind of a force at play here. Have you had that kind of experience, or that kind of, do you get that feeling at all?
I have thought about that question so much, and I've been exploring for over 10 years. Atlantis was in 2007. So gosh, I've been exploring for going on 14 years. And I still haven't been able to answer that question. Because the portal in Atlantis, it was by the lake. I was parked on kind of a soft ground. So was it just that, there's some soft earth and then a tunnel beneath that I still haven't been able to, I don't know what element of it is just natural that we don't understand. If there's a supernatural element at play, it's kind of like you go to Orlando, Florida on vacation, right? And you go there for a week, and you say, I'm going to see SeaWorld, I'm going to see Disney World, I'm going to see Epcot, Universal Studios, the whole nine.
Sure. And
the first day you're there, you're like, wow, this is amazing. But then by day 3 or 4, that's just what your life is. And for me, that's kind of the way it's been. I find that I find these places, and then I just get wrapped up in them so quickly that it just becomes my life. And at that point, it's kind of hard to sort of decipher what of this is like a spiritual element at play. What of this is just nature. What aspect of this is is, just something that we can't explain. And like I said, I've been exploring for a long time, and I don't know if I can fully answer that. I think it may be even it might depend on each individual case.
Mhm.
Sure. Interesting.
I feel like it could be very disorienting as well. Like you said, it helps us understand if you equate it to something like being on vacation. You go somewhere for a week, and it's very overwhelming. There's so much to do, and you do get lost in it, and you forget about the rest of the world around you. And then suddenly, an entire week has passed, and you have all of these new experiences, and it can be very overwhelming to go back to regular life after that.
Right. You get back home and you say, "All right, I'm ready to get in line for the Hulk," and then you realize, wait a minute, that's not your reality anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you open a PF Chang's after what you've experienced? How do you do that?
Honestly, it's kind of a two-way. Well, it's a double-edged sword because a lot of the supply is frozen, so we've been able to hang on to that through the COVID crisis. But it's finding the right location. It's finding that city, that town, that unincorporated area that's saying, "Hey, we need a PF Chang's," and that's another conversation.
Yeah. I mean, you're a modern day Indiana Jones here. Just going these different places, and I have to ask, are you gathering samples from these places? Are you bringing back any sort of souvenirs? Are you rock hounding, picking up any rocks or dung samples to bring back, to compare to what is not through these portals?
Well, my team, I mentioned my team for the North Dakota project. I actually have a contact in North Dakota who is working on the nation stages of the North Dakota Dinosaur Dung Lab. So we do have some samples stored there currently, and we're working to add more to that. I have a koosh ball and one of those little plastic clackers, from Atlantis, and that was my first. If I had known, and if I could, when I get back there, I'll get better stuff. But I was just kind of in the, oh my god, So I also got a pennant that didn't survive a move a few years
right.
after that. So,
yeah, felt.
Yeah, you know how that goes.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I do have. I have an intellectual desire to go back to the Everglades and collect some specimen from what I saw there, but it's a bridge too far at this point. I need some more time before I'm ready for that.
That's understandable. Sure. So, we talk about this is exciting. It sounds like you're not only exploring new places and trying to go back, but you're also broadening your horizons with a team and research centers, and really just trying to make your mark. Where do you see yourself in maybe another 10 years? On your current or even an improved trajectory?
Wow, that's a hard question to answer. 10 years ago, if you'd asked me that, I would have told you, or maybe 15, I would have said, I don't have to work. My dad owns all the KFCs in Indiana, except for South Bend and the Chili's. So I don't know. I'm going to go to Wimbledon and to, Burma, and then we'll see from there. I don't know. But now I think in 10 years, we'll have seen the dinosaur. I really do. I think we found dung up to this point that we can verify in the lab is within 72 hours old. So we're only a few days behind them. So I think we're going to find the dinosaur. I would like to expand. Really, currently we only have the team and the center in North Dakota, but I'd love, ideally to spur that into a team in the Everglades, a team in Greece, a team in North Carolina looking for the hedgehog. The hedgehog gopher type thing that I saw, so that's really that's probably the aspirational goal, and just try to hit as many of those check marks between then and now. We've got a documentary in the works for the North Dakota project, so hopefully that all lines up like I see it happening, and that's that would be another avenue that we get to pursue. But
that's, the documentary is very exciting. So obviously your goal with all these things is really to bring public awareness, but with that comes the threat of overexposure. So where is the line in your opinion between possibly maybe the ethical standpoints of having people knowing that these things exist and then maybe discouraging them from going to these places to maybe taint that biome itself?
I think for me it's a biome to biome situation. Atlantis is looking for people to find them. Strange as that may seem, they're inaccessible, and they have one very well hidden and hard to find entry point and exit point, but they want people there. They've got a tourist-based economy. When I went to the bowling alley, there were 2 other people there bowling in like 12 lanes, and they both worked for the bowling alley. So you see what I mean? They need people to be there. Everglades is kind of a different story. They really are self-sufficient down there. They eat a lot of alligator, which is very accessible for them. They don't need much oxygen, so the little the pocket that they have is fine. So it's like for them, we should probably leave them alone. For Atlantis, we need to find them. They need us. So it's
sure.
It just there's no easy way to answer that. I think it's that's why it's important to find these places and kind of assess them and figure out. Do we leave well enough alone? What's the best route forward? Because there's places out there that really need us, and Atlantis is proof of that.
Yes, it certainly sounds that way, and I think you put it best when you say that it's really a biome to biome kind of decision, that there isn't a blanket concern one way or the other, that some places need our interaction, and others may be would be best off without too much interference past scientific discovery.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, when I got to the Everglades, like the first thing that they took issue with was that I was chewing Big Red. Like they just don't like Big Red. And there's no way I could have known that. There's no way I could have avoided that. There's really no way that I can even rationalize it. It's just like that's the way it is down there for them.
Was it all gums or just that specific?
No, it was just Big Red, because I also had juicy fruit, and when I switched, that kind of diffused the situation. But
interesting.
That's the thing. It's like there's just so much unknown. There's so much unknown until we know it.
Of course, yeah, that's exactly, and these cultural divides. I mean, you couldn't have known Big Red over juicy fruit, even if there were signs about cinnamon or fruit juiciness. It's just not something that's that you can easily discern. So do you have a documentary coming out? Have you been doing other kind of documentation? Because I think your goal is quite admirable, quite noble, that within 10 years or so you're on a good track to see a dinosaur. And so it makes me wonder if you're kind of gearing up for photographs or video footage or something of that nature to record this kind of event. What are your thoughts on that?
We're trying to get a Mac. Right now, I just mostly use my phone. And in the beginning, like I said, this all started out as kind of an unintentional thing. So in the beginning, I was really bad about taking notes. But lately, as we've gotten more focused, we always write down like the date and the location of where we are now, the current date for when we're there. And we'll write down things that we see. If there's an a circumstance where we're able to speak to someone, a lot of times we'll write down either what they said or kind of like a synopsis of the conversation. So we're getting better about that. That's still a work in progress. But like I said, we're trying to get a Mac, and I think that's going to help out a lot.
Make a big difference when it comes to content creation. Sure.
Yeah.
So I kind of, do we have, before we take our final break here, is Dr. Semor still with us? I wanted to kind of ask him one more question.
Yeah.
If he
I've been here
had any
before.
advice. Oh, okay. He's still with us. Yeah. Before we kind of have our last break and wrap up here, for Bobby Knife here, venturing into the unknown, is there any advice you might be able to offer him when it comes to these first encounters with something, whether it's the hedgehog, gopher type of animal, or even something like a mid to small sized dinosaur, from a scientific standpoint? What should he perhaps keep in mind?
Yeah, as when you're interacting with a new animal for the first time, it's really hard to give advice that is safe across the board, but you just want to make sure that you don't seem like a threat to them, and just be really observant. Try to keep yourself small, take good notes of what you're seeing, as it sounds like you're really learning to do, and just don't get too ambitious. It could be something as simple as you said, as the scent of, obviously in the Everglades, it wasn't necessarily the scent, but maybe it was, but like one subtle thing over another, one gum over another, and these unknown animals that maybe have been by themselves for so long. You want to be introducing yourself as little by little as possible, and just learning from each encounter. And it sounds like all of your experiences are going in the right direction. So if you can get that MAC, I'm confident we'll be seeing dinosaurs by 2030.
Incidentally, if any of you have a good lead on a Mac, preferably not too expensive, talk to me after this.
Oh, we'll hook you up. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
We should. We'll have to mention that to our readers and listeners and viewers. They can email when they email us and write in. That's a perfect segue.
It is.
Yeah. To call in, write emails if you have a good lead on an Apple Macintosh.
Yeah. Any
for
leads
a
at all?
very good cause.
Preferably Mac. But we're open to. We're open-minded, so
Yeah. You can streamline a lot.
Don't not reach out just because it's not a Mac.
Right, just any sort of gear at all. Because we forget, because we talk so often to doctors and experts and scientists. So we get in that mindset is that people setting forth on these expeditions already have the gear and the support with them to further their research. We forget that people have to start somewhere. And Bobby Knife, talking to you has been very eye-opening for me in so many different ways, because not only do we have confirmation of these places that you've been, but we also see firsthand what it's like to have the passion and the drive to go out and seek these things with maybe not a lot of gear or equipment or a big team. And that's totally cool, because first of all, you have to start somewhere. But also it just shows that anybody can do it. Anybody can go out and find the real true facts. And that is what we are all about here.
That really means a lot. My dad he's not supportive of it. So it means a lot for you to say that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, you are an ambassador from our world to the next world. And so do not ever forget that.
Thank you.
So I had to lift up a little bit. We had to get a little inspirational here. So
yeah, I'm sorry. It's just,
no, you're fine. You're fine.
My dad can be really hard sometimes.
Yeah,
it sounds like it. I mean, you don't succeed that far into business without things difficult, and it doesn't sound like he's. I don't want to get all Dr. Phil on everyone, but it sounds like he could maybe support this venture a little bit more. So. Yeah, I guess we want to say that we appreciate the work you're doing.
That really
Bobby.
means a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. Hey, anytime. And please, to our listeners out there, you are welcome to send us any leads. We do have an email address. It is realtruefactsmail@gmail.com. Send us leads on gear. Let's help out Bobby Knife. Let's help him fully realize his dream, because we are nothing without action. We can talk all day, but until we support those who are actually out there fighting the good fight, like Bobby, even Dr. Semor, he's very established in his career, but he's still out there. I mean, he got stung by like a billion cloned bees last week. So there are dangers associated with that. So please email us, realtruefactsmail@gmail.com. You can email us any questions, comments, leads, or otherwise.
Right. And just like, our guests and our experts, we could use the support too. Follow us on Instagram. We have an Instagram. Subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, all of your favorite podcast outlets. And what's our Instagram again?
Our Instagram is @realtruefactsgram. And you can see all sorts of different stuff behind our episodes and all the different real true facts that we uncover for you, dear listeners.
And finally, we're also on YouTube, because I know some folks out there like to listen to the YouTube on their various devices. So we've made that an easy option for you as well. So want to make sure you have every available outlet to check out Real True Facts.
Yes, very, very easy. So I think we're going to start wrapping up here. A lot of emotions happening today, but I'm very, very happy to have had Bobby Knife on the show. Dr. Semor, always a pleasure as well. Bobby, any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with? Anything coming up that you want people to know about?
Look out, as soon as we get that Mac, we're going to get a YouTube and all that. So look out for that. And that'll give us a way to communicate with the public more about how they can help us. So keep your eyes out for that. If any documentary filmmakers are free and available, look me up on Facebook, and I'd like to talk. And then just for anybody out there, like I said, I wasn't an explorer until, I accidentally explored, and that could be you too. So just, just keep that in mind.
Wonderful words.
Amazing. Yeah, that's an amazing thought.
Inspiring.
Thanks so much for
Did I talk about
out.
the Mac just one more time?
You did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but always good to reiterate, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks. Yeah, thank you so much, Bobby and I, for coming on, relaying your experiences and your great advice for everyone else out there. And and thanks again to Dr. Semor in the old science bunker.
Yeah. Are you still with us, Dr. Semor? I know you're popping in and out between experiments here.
Yes, I'm still with you. I've been keeping an eye on the bees, and everything's going well. So we're
good. Happy to hear it. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up today and go into our mailbag?
No, just nope. And then I say something. Yeah, as you get out and explore, keep your eyes open for new experiences. Kind of look out there and always keep looking for the truth, because it may not be what you see at first, like we always talk about here.
Yeah. Wonderfully said. Let's hop on a quick break here, and when we come back, we will answer your listener questions.
We're back from our final break this week on Real True Facts, wrapping things up after an excellent discussion this week about secret biomes with some fantastic guests as usual. So Betty, what do we have from our special mailbag this week?
Nicholas, we have one email today from Courtney K. She wrote her whole name here, but I'm just going to say Courtney K because we are all about anonymity being anonymous on the show. So we've got one email from her. She wants to know, if animals could talk, which would be the rudest?
Wow. I feel like one of those angry animals, like the ones with the teeth.
Yeah, like
I don't know,
carnivores, like an angry
a beaver. Or something, or chipmunk. And cat, it's hard to say because some people just say cats, but find some cats to be perfectly fine and some to be very rude. So maybe it would be speciesist of us to answer that question. I'm not entirely sure. What do you think, Betty?
I was just going to start rambling off animals that I thought were rude, but you're absolutely right. It is sort of speciesist to assume anything, but I can just talk from experience here because listeners, as you know, any new listeners, we are down in bunkers in various locations in the world. And so we don't really leave those places. So I actually have a few animals in the bunker with me. I've got 2 cats and a dog, and they can be incredibly rude.
Sure.
It's a proximity thing, so we're always like up in each other's spaces just because we can't leave, being underground and whatnot. So they can be kind of rude. I mean, I can be kind of rude too, but also I'm just going to say birds. I think birds are incredibly rude. I had one in the bunker that was a drone.
Peacocks. There it is.
Yes.
I'll go out and say
That's
it.
it.
Peacocks. Just strutting around, being rude.
Thinking they're better than everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
If I had to say, I think birds are incredibly rude, especially ones that aren't real, which we know is all of them. So.
Yeah, and we're all in pretty much agreement there.
Yeah.
So before the break, we kind of did the rundown on our social medias and our outlets. But again, our email address is
realtruefactsmail@gmail.com.
Great.
Yeah, anyone can ask us anything. As we know from Courtney's question, you can literally ask us anything, which animals are rude, and we'll probably answer it. We get tons of emails, so we can't answer all of them at once, but we'll cherry pick the best ones there. And who knows, if we like your question, if we can't answer it ourselves, maybe we will feature the answer on a subsequent episode. So you're always able to do that. Questions, comments, concerns, you can do that through our email, or you can follow us again on our Instagram. That is @realtruefactsgram for more info behind our guests and the show. And you can slide into our DMs, as they say.
Exactly. And leave us a review or a comment on iTunes or Spotify or Stitcher or Podbean, any one of those.
Any one of those. If you like what you hear, tell your friends. It's super important, helps us do our jobs better. Our listeners come from all around the world, so thank you so much for continuing to tune in week after week. This is our 14th show. We only got more coming after that, so you keep the lights on for us in the bunker. So thank you for doing that. Continue to listen, and we'll keep bringing you the real true facts. Yes, we shall. So thank you again to Bobby Knife for joining us, Explorer Extraordinaire. Hopefully he gets to achieve his goals. We'll keep in touch with him, and we wish him the best of luck. Thank you again to Dr. Semor for joining us today. Thank you to my co-hosts, and thank you to our dear listeners. Because remember, just because you hear about it or read about it doesn't mean it's true. Keep questioning your world around you. We'll see you next time on another episode of Real True Facts.